you. Okay. Hello. How are you? This is Ahmed Ragab from the Academic Professional Training, and today we're going to actually study Unit 7 and Unit 8. These are in the high level, which is like level 11 in short. Okay. Now, before we start, we need to know that we are about to finish this course, and as we are going to finish this course, we need to pay attention to some things. Now, through the whole course, we've learned lots of things. Okay. Throughout the whole course, we've learned lots of things about education, about like movies, about having fun, about activities, about lots of things, lots of topics, lots of things. And some of the things we actually were repeated. We talked about them more than one time to discuss more things about them. Also, we discussed a lot of grammatical rules, and we said we do not study grammar. We try to practice grammar. Okay, now how do we practice grammar? Because that's an important question. Now, lots of people come and ask me, okay, what should I do with grammar? I don't know how to work my grammatical things. I make lots of mistakes in grammar, so what should I do? Now, my advice to you is to practice grammar, not to study. Now, what's the difference between practicing and studying? Now, let's talk about this. Now, when I study, that means I study for an exam, which is not a nice thing normally. Why? Because we're used to doing this. We're used to study for the exam, finish the exam, after the exam, everything files away. Okay. So, how can we actually be ready for something like that? Now, we should practice. We should understand it. So the key of solving correct grammar, the key of solving everything related to grammar or using a correct grammar is by understanding grammar. How can we understand grammar? Now let's take a recap about how can we understand grammar, okay? So that's the thing. So how can we understand grammar? Now let's take a text here and let's start like okay. Now, first, let's try by this. Let's start by this. Now, let's start by something we mix. Okay. Tenses. So something like that. I want to practice tenses. I want to know how to use tenses in a correct way. Like, let's do this. In tenses, I have to understand the situation for the things. So, before talking about tenses, let's talk about situations. I use the tense according to situation. How? Like, we have in situations, we have a story. Okay. We have routine. We have plans. Future plans. We have recent action. We have wishes. We have what else? Okay, logical results. We have unknown subject. And okay, let's talk about those. So again, we said we don't study grammar, we understand grammar. Okay. So, okay, now let's look at these situations. How can we talk about these situations in a correct way? So I have to understand the situations. Okay, the first thing is a story. So what is the story? So when I tell you a story about something, what's that? Yes, correct. Now when I tell you a story about something, that means I'm talking about past. Very nice. So I tell you about things already happened. Very nice. So what we understand from it, so it's something happened, ended in the past. Okay, and I'm telling you about it. So when I tell you about it, so I use what? The past simple, very nice. So something happened and ended. Okay. Now let's go for the second thing, routine. Routine stuff. Routine, that means what? I do it. Okay. Regularly, very nice. Regular. Regular things. Regularly things are things that I do every day, every week, every month, every year, or whatever. So that's regularly. So when we talk about routine, we need a tense that's talking about routine. So if you understood, like, I walk to work every day. I go to my college every day. I teach English every day. I eat my breakfast every day. I eat my lunch every day. I eat my dinner every day. I go to club every week. I go to my uncle every week. I go to my nanny every week. I visit my cousins every month. I meet my cousins on the feast. I travel to USA every year. I travel to Saudi Arabia every 6 months. So it's what? It's a habit. It's something I do after a specific period normally. How? Like when I talk about this, something I do after a specific period. Normally, like it's not supposed to be 1 day or 2 days or whatever. No, it's whatever I want. 1 hour, 1 day, 2 days, 1 week, 1 month. As long as it's a specific period, I do something. This specific period, I do something after it. Okay, so that's the routine. So for routine stuff we said, we talk about the present simple because that's the habit. Now let's go for future plans. Future plans, from the word, here we have future. Future plans. Very nice. So future plans, are you? The future, very nice. Simple, with what? With going to. That's very nice because the future plan with going to, that means I have a plan. I already have the thing. Future intentions, I have. Well, that's very nice. I will go. That's, I have the intention, I took the decision, but it's not a plan. But when I say I'm going to go, that means I have a plan already happened. Now let's go for next thing. Recent actions. We said with recent actions we use what? Yes, it's the second case of the present simple. That's correct. When I say, for example, I've sent the email this morning. I've sent the email this morning. I actually defined the time here to tell you something important, that this is a recent action. This is something happened recently. Now, let's go for something else. Wishes. Wishes, okay. For wishes, I have lots of things. But we have one of the tenses that I can use for wishes. But, okay, by the time I'm 30, I'll have bought a car. So that's a wish or a logical result. Meaning, let's say, for example, by the time I'm 30, I'll have bought a car. That means what? That means I have a plan that when I reach 30, I'll have a car. So that's logical explanation. So I use the future verb. Now, let's go for the last one, which is the unknown subject. Unknown subject. What is the unknown subject? Unknown subject, that means I don't know who did this action. When I don't know the subject, what do I do? Correct. When I don't know the subject, I use the passive. Like, for example, when I say, the door was closed. Door was closed. That means I don't know who closed the door. But the action here, or what I see here, is that the door is closed. Okay. So that's something, for example, tenses. We're talking about grammar. So that's for tenses. Now let's talk about something else. If conditions. If conditions. What's that? If conditions are conditions we've talked about before. We've talked about the 4 conditions of F. We talked about the condition, the 0 condition. We talked about the first, second, and third. And we said that every single one has a different usage, has a different thing. in the past, in the future, or logical things, or expecting something. Okay? So I understand the situation. I always rely on the situation, not on the grammatical part. Okay? So again, when I try to use grammar, I practice grammar. I practice grammar through songs, for example. We have lots of songs that can help us in practicing grammar. How? Like, for example, I practice a song that's talking about the present perfect. Or I practice a song that's talking about the past simple, or the present time. Or I practice a song that's talking about someone is telling us something happening to him now. That means I have to use what? The present continuous. Very nice. So this is how I not mix the grammar. After reaching this level 11, that means you don't have that much of problems of grammar, and you've been through a lot through our course. Now here, so learning English is about the course? No. Learning English is about how much effort do you do. How many times in a day do you practice English? How many hours? How many minutes do you practice English? All of these are very important factors in this equation. So if we're talking about these factors are very important. Why? Because how much I practice is how much I want to get. Both of them are equal. Don't tell me that I don't practice English, I don't listen to English, and I improve myself. No, that's not correct. Why? Because let's think about it like this. Let's think about it. How did you learn to speak Arabic? How did you learn your own language? If you're not speaking Arabic, if you're speaking French. How did you learn to speak Italian? How did you learn? How did you learn? How did you learn? Lots of questions. And the answer is one. What's that answer? That I learned to speak my language through listening to my parents, through listening to the people around me. So that means what? Listening. So I always listen. I always try to pay attention. I have to listen a lot. Yeah. Now, repeating English or repeating listening or repeating everything, that helps you a lot in your mission. Your mission here is to try to speak English. And we've watched lots of videos about speaking English. But what's important about all of these videos, what's common, that all of these videos are telling you that you have to listen a lot to English. This is how we learn how to speak. This is how I learned how to speak. I learned how to speak through listening to lots of things. I learned how to speak through watching movies, through listening to some lectures, through listening to some speakers on TED, through listening to National Geographic. Of course, not the Arabic one, the English one. Of course, not National Geographic Abu Dhabi. We're talking about the worldwide one, the BBC one. So, National Geographic. We have the BBC documentaries. We have lots of things, lots of ways. You can choose your own way. It depends on what you actually prefer in life. Meaning, for example, let's take this an example. Some people, you don't like watching movies. Okay. I'm not going to tell you you have to watch movies. Nope. This is not the way. This is not the correct way of learning anything. When you try to learn anything, you need to pay attention to something important. What's that important thing? That you have to enjoy that thing to learn it correctly. If you're not enjoying learning English, don't learn. True. So this is the way. If I'm not learning English and I'm enjoying it, don't learn it. Pay attention to something important. Enjoying the thing will make you try to find solutions, will make you try to find ways to learn that thing. How many times you've looked for some things related to math when you used to love it, to be in love with math? How many times have you looked for some things from history because you like history? How much information do you have because you like history and you look for things? It's the same. So you need to enjoy the thing to learn the thing in a correct way. So I have to enjoy it. I have to find something I enjoy about that learning. Some people think English is very difficult. Very difficult. I cannot learn English because I don't understand. They are speaking fast. So the question here, am I speaking fast or not? Am I speaking the same tempo as them or not? That's the question. That's the question you should answer before we continue this course. The question here, am I speaking slow? No, I'm not. I'm speaking the same tempo. But the thing is, it's about the length. What's the length? Now, think about it like this. If I have this length, if I know what you're talking about, I will know how to listen to you. I will know how to understand everything you do. Like, for example, I know that you're talking about money, and I'm listening to you, so I will understand most of your things. But let's take, for example, as someone starts talking about global warming. I don't know what's global warming. We'll take it in the future, don't worry. So that's a phenomenon. This phenomenon actually is one of the phenomena that we have, and it's like about the Earth is having lots of CO2, and the CO2 is affecting the temperature, and after affecting this temperature is rising up. The North Pole and the South Pole are going to be melt down, going to have lots of water floods and lots of disasters. So that's, for example, an environmental problem, one of the environmental problems that we have in our world. If you don't know what is global warming, if you don't know what's the meaning of environmental problems, you're not going to understand anything. So you have to pay attention to it. You have to learn how to speak fast, how to listen to people who are speaking fast. How can I do this? Actually, the solution is very simple and easy. Listen a lot. Because with listening a lot, you will learn how to get used to this language, to cope with this language. To cope with this language, that means you listen to this language and you don't have a problem with it. So that's one of the problems that we already have, that we don't listen much to the language. So we need to listen a lot to the language so we can learn that language. We're finishing this course, so that means we need to wrap up everything. We need to sum up the whole thing. We need to learn how to continue learning English after this course and in the future. So, welcome back. Okay, before we go to the prayer, we were talking about how to learn and how to do all this. How to learn grammar and how to learn how to speak and everything. Now, pay attention to this. Now, you're not going to learn without doing effort. That means you have to work hard. Now, this course is a guideline. As I said, and as I'm saying every time, like I say every time the same thing. This course is a guideline. Whatever you learn from me, Mr. Amir, and Mr. Muhammad Awam, and Mr. Ibrahim, are things like you can actually use them in your life. Now, try to use them wisely, meaning, like, try to choose these guidelines and try to look for them yourself. Now, we were talking about ways of learning, and I told you, like, there are movies, documentaries, and lots of things. Now, some people, as we were saying, they don't like watching movies for a long time. They don't like staying in front of the computer and watching a movie for 2 hours. Okay? Even if it was animation, action, drama, or whatever. So, okay, no problem. I'm not going to tell you have to. You don't have to do anything, as we said. You have to enjoy it. So you have to choose something you enjoy. Now we have, for example, TED speakers. Try to open YouTube or TED.com. You'll find lots of things. So if you open YouTube, TED.com, Google whatever you want, you search for the things that you want, you'll find that that thing is available on YouTube or TED or anything. Let's say, for example, you love math and you need something about math. You find it. Science, you find it. Decoration, you find it. Art, you find it. Anything. I mean, anything in the world, anything that you like, you'll find an interview speaking about it, which isn't good. Now, to do this, you have to pay attention to something important. So this is a way, one of the ways. You can listen to songs as well. Songs are very helpful when it comes to teaching English. They help you a lot because they are easy to be actually used or to be found. Something like that, like if I want to find a song, it's easy. I Google on YouTube, I open SoundCloud, I open any site that has songs on it. So that's easy. Also, I can open my Facebook. So when I look on my Facebook, I can find songs, I can find lots of things. And also, like, I can learn songs, as we do every time. So it's helpful. It can help you a lot in your job. It can help you, it can help you out in learning English and everything. So that's another way. And we have lots and lots of ways. You choose whatever makes you satisfied. Now some people, they like watching the news. I want you to watch the news in English. Now here's a problem. When I listen to the news, I don't understand most of the things. No problem. No problem if you don't understand most of the things. The first step is listening a lot. It's coping to the language. That means have it there. So we said that every process in the world is divided into two, input and output. If the input was correct, the output will be correct. The input was wrong, the output will be wrong. Now let's go for the correct one. If the input was correct, the output 90% will be correct, but 10% is going to be wrong. So what should we do? We should do actually the processing thing, which is repeating. I repeat listening to things. I repeat listening to that movie, I repeat listening to that song, I repeat listening to that speaking, anything. Now, that's what I want from you. I want you to focus with me on these things. Focus on these skills. Now, let's talk about the skills again. And now we'll talk on not right then. Now, number one, when you try to learn a vocabulary, learn them like this. Learn vocabulary in sentences. That way, you'll have sentences here. So that's a very nice way of learning vocabulary. So the first thing is learn vocabulary in a sentence. That's one. How about the second thing? The second thing is don't study grammar, practice grammar. As we were saying, practice grammar through situations, as we were saying here, so situations, or practice grammar through songs, through topics, listening to stories. All of these things are ways of practicing grammar. How about number three? Number three here means like, number three here is learn English with your ears, not with your eyes. That means listening is the key. Listening is very important in learning English. I have to listen a lot and a lot and a lot. Dedicate every day an hour from your time to listening. This is a very important thing. Why? Because when you do that every day, that means you get used to that language. This is what we want you to do. We want you to get used to the language so you can learn the language in a correct way. You can learn the language in an easy way. It's not about rules, it's not about solving exams. Exams are just a small part of the evaluation. But the first important part of the evaluation is your self-evaluation. How can you evaluate yourself? Now when you listen to yourself or you actually speak to yourself, record to yourself, you find lots of things. You find lots of mistakes. Me, myself, sometimes when I record to myself, I found like a tiny small mistake I've never noticed before. Lots of time. Lots of time I record to myself, I've watched myself, and I found that I have some mistakes. Some minor mistakes I have to work on. That's why I improve myself this way. And you should do that again. You should do that like me. It's very important to improve yourself. It's very important to evaluate yourself. Why? Because self-evaluation is the most accurate evaluation. Why? Because you're not going to lie to yourself, even if you try. You cannot. It's the same you. So you assisting you. And also you're not going to be embarrassed in front of yourself if you have something wrong. If you have a problem in pronunciation or anything, you're not going to be actually embarrassed or something. Okay? Now, the last thing I will say is learn English deeply or learn any language deeply. That means repeat the language. The processing part, input, output, processing, which is repeat. These 4 rules are very important for you. So, learn vocabulary and sentences. Don't study grammar. Learn with your ears, not with your eyes. Learn English deeply. These 4 rules are very important, are very nice, are very useful for you to learn English. And always don't rely on academic stuff. I need something from the materials. For example, we have lots of syllabuses. The syllabus, the material that we study, like we have lots of different materials around the world. So the materials we study, we don't rely on their listening because their listening is not 100% accurate in teaching because the listening here is made for the material. But what I want you to listen to is real conversation between people. Real things like movies, like videos on YouTube, like interviews, like internet speakers, all of that. All of these are going to help you a lot. So these are the things. Try to pay attention to them in the future and keep on practicing. Now let's start our topic today. Our topic today is something related to our life. It's something very important. Why? Because, first let's ask this question as we actually got used to it. How is it going? How is it going here? I mean, I want you to tell me, how is your life going? What's new about your life? Or, are you happy in your life or not happy or whatever? So how is it going? Everything is great. I'm doing well. I'm doing great. How about if it was negative? Not bad. Going. You see my intonation? That means there is something wrong with me. So intonation is very important in English. Try to use your own English. Now let's talk about today's topic. Today's topic, as we said, is very important for our life because it's the career life. After finishing the school and finishing all of these things, you have to start your own life, to start a job, looking for the job first, then try to actually work the job properly, try to promote in a job, and lots of things. Now let's talk about a couple of things related to that topic. Now let's start by this. After finishing the school, which is finish the high school, after that the college, you have this thing. I want to look for a job. Okay. Now, the first question you'll be asked is this. What are your qualifications? That's a very important question you have to answer. Why? Because in this question, you prove if you work with or not. You prove that if you qualify for the job or not. So that's the thing. So for trying to answer this question, what are my qualifications? So I have to set a plan for myself. So here let's answer this question. Now, let's open the first thing and let's start our presentation. Now, our presentation will start with something like this. Facing the real world. Now, we have studied a lot in the college. We have studied a lot in our life. We have lots of things to do in our lives, and so on. And so goes the lesson. Now, when I face the real world, what happens? Let's first talk about the normal routine life you have and going to have. It's pretty typical for most of people. You finish studying, and then you start working on your skills to have a good job, to have a good career. But the question here is how to work on my skills. How to enhance my qualifications? How to enhance it? That's a good question. Now first, let's ask this question. What are your qualifications? Don't tell me that your qualifications are your certificate the bachelor certificate that you took from the school. And this is not a correct thing. Why? Because this is not enough. The school is not enough. Now, have you worked on your skill? Have you planned for your things? Have you planned for your life? Lots of things. So, to answer these questions, I have to work on them. Now, how to work on my things? Now, as we agreed, let's speak forward, answer questions, ask ourselves some questions. What makes people successful? What makes you a successful person? How can you be successful? All of these are very important questions for us. Now, okay, so let's do something. Let's watch this video and then continue our